5th Congressional District, U.S. Representative Tim Walberg. Hi, Tim.
Good to be with you.
Welcome back.
As always.
Nice
It's only been a short time since I was here before.
I know. In fact, I was looking at your website this morning, and I saw that you used a picture from the last time you were here.
We have to pay royalties now? Is that?
Well, actually, yes. I do have this bill.
gee
I
whiz.
thought I would pass along to.
Oh.
No, but I do have a beef with the picture. If you'll take a look, you can see my head is cut off. So
That's because you stand head and shoulders above the rest of us.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
All right. No,
Yeah.
it was nice to see your appearance on our show on your website.
We always enjoy it, and I won't belabor the fact that if you came to my office, you'd still see your coffee cup.
We are going to do
filled with mints that people take from every time they come visit the office. They'll take
one
a
of
mint
these
out of it.
days. We're gonna make a visit. But right now, it sounds like things are going to get really busy for Congress. The Treasury Secretary says we are going to run out of money by June 1st if we don't do something. But it sounds like President Biden is wanting to have a conversation with Kevin McCarthy and
Finally.
and it's got to happen. I mean, it sounds like both sides are actually saying, yes, we really have to get together on this.
Well, 3 months ago, Kevin McCarthy met with the president at the White House, talking about a number of things, including debt ceiling hike. And all of us who deal with this understand you can't default on your debt as a sovereign country like ours. Our currency is the world currency. I don't want to see the currency of the world become the yuan or any other currency. It ought to be the American dollar. So we can't default. But 8 times in the past 40 years during the debt ceiling hike, because this has gone on many times, 8 times it has come with reform in spending as well as reductions. And that's happened under Republican and Democrat administrations. Reagan, Clinton, it happened under, and it could do that now. The president said he would negotiate, and Kevin McCarthy waited for, I think it was 78 days, and no negotiation. So finally we passed last week the debt ceiling hike, the limit, save, and grow plan that we call it, that not only raises the debt ceiling either to March of 2024 or $1.5 trillion, whichever comes first. We also place the budget for the 2024 year, which we'll be working on. We place it at the 2022 spending levels, so there's
with
immediate
cuts.
No cuts, just keep it at present. That's what it is at present. No one was dying in the streets on December 2022. Social Security recipients were receiving their checks. VA checks were going out, Medicare checks were going out, the military was being paid. So we know that we haven't done draconian cuts. Now we have put some cuts in place. We did away with the funding for 87,000 IRS agents. We figure if they would come back to work and not attempt to be working mobily, they could do everything they're supposed to do now. We did away with the funding for the student loan debt payoffs. In talking with my constituents, overwhelmingly, they don't like that. Most of them have paid off their own student debt or their kids' debt. And so they see that as an improvement. Doing away with some of the Green New Deal dollars that we put in. All of that adds up in the end to a $4.5 trillion savings to the taxpayer. Now, having said all of that, if the president doesn't like it as we put it through the House last week, and everybody's surprised that the House was able to do it, but we hung together.
It was very narrow passage.
Narrow passage just enough. We had one of our members sick, so he wasn't there. Fortunately, a few of their members were gone too, so it gave us the need only for 217. But we got that done. Now we can move forward, and the President and the Senate can negotiate with us. We know it's not going to stay in the same form as we sent it, but it's going to have to be close. And I think that's where negotiations come in. And so I'm glad that the president just yesterday indicated to Kevin McCarthy, our speaker, that yes, he's willing to meet next week on the 9th and begin that negotiation.
But today, the president tweeted that the bill you passed last week provides no specific protections for veterans programs.
That's a lie, and I hate to say that about the president, but the Democrats have been using that for the past 5 days now. It's an absolute untruth. Unless you're saying that we kept it at 2022 levels. That's what they're at now. So it's no cut. They're also saying it's going to cut Medicare and, of course, Social Security, because they always go back to that. They think that the American public assumes that Republicans don't have members of their family in the military, or veterans, or Social Security recipients, or Medicare recipients. It's an absolute untruth. Let me make a nicer, more gentler term. It is an untruth what the president said about that. And frankly, if you've seen many of his statements, most people in the United States discount what he said anyway as being conscious of reality. But this is a pure political spin. If that's the problem, then negotiate with us and fix it. But that's not the problem.
All right, we've got a few other things. You last week introduced a new healthcare plan that would expand healthcare options for small business, provide lower costs for the plans. How does this change with what the current provisions are for small business healthcare?
Well, what it says is that small businesses can join together for an economy of scale. For instance, if there was an association of locally owned and operated cable television companies, I think I know one, they could join together and have, rather than 5 or 6 employees at the shop, and I don't know how many you have here, you could combine with a number of other the same businesses, and you'd have maybe upwards of 50, 75, 100 employees. Now that begins to give you an economy of scale for insurance purposes that allows you to offer benefits that are better than what you have now to your employees at a reduced cost. It's been tried in numerous places. President Trump, through an executive order, made it possible. That was rescinded. My bill would put it back. And I believe, as I've had in the past, I'll have some bipartisan support for that. But it just simply says the small business ought to be treated the same as a large corporation or a big union. They can provide better coverage because of the numbers they have. And those that are sick in that organization are watered down by the numbers that are healthy. And so it draws it together, and you have the greater ability to contract out for a better health care plan. And that's all I want to do.
Last time you were here, you talked about your bill that would prevent students or schools from assigning gender term to a student without the parents' knowledge or permission. What's the status of that?
That bill passed. It was rolled into the parental rights bill that we passed 2 weeks ago. That really established the fact that parents still ought to be seen as the primary authority in their kids' lives, most responsible and most accountable. My bill simply said for middle school and elementary school students, if they ask their teacher to change their personal pronouns from an I to from a boy to a girl, or a girl to a boy, change their name, or give them gender transitioning counseling, the school simply has to contact the parents and say, this is what Johnny or Billy or Susie want us to do. We want you to know that. That's all. And while some of my Democrat colleagues attack that as saying, now you're going to have kids abused by parents, my response was, sadly, we do have kids that are abused and neglected by parents today. But 99.9% of the parents love their kids. And if they don't know this already, they ought to know it so they can love their child, work with their child, and even ask the question, Billy or Susie, why do you want to do this? Can we talk about it?
Has the bill gone to the Senate yet?
It's gone to the Senate, and what it would do is say if the school doesn't inform the parents, then they lose their federal funding. So it's in the Senate, the whole package, the Protect Kids Act and the Parental Rights Act is over there, with the energy bill that we passed, and now with the debt ceiling and spending reform bill.
I wanted to ask you about the Supreme Court. In the last few weeks, Justice Thomas has come under fire for accepting gifts from a rich benefactor. Chief Justice John Roberts is under fire for some things his wife has done. The ethics overall of the Supreme Court, Democrats are troubled, Republicans not so. In fact, Chief Justice Roberts didn't show up at an oversight hearing that was held yesterday, and it doesn't seem like, without any kind of Republican interest in the matter of ethics on the court, that it's not going to go anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere because there's no violation. This is pure politics. As you see more attention given to President Trump on his potential problems, legal problems, than given to President Biden and Hunter Biden on their potential legal problems. It's a national media hazing that goes on with the Democrat support, and Roberts didn't show up because it wasn't an official hearing. It was authorized by the Democrats, who are in the minority. They didn't have the power to do this anyway. If anybody would be above reproach, Justice Thomas would be, the longest serving member of the Supreme Court now, who has only been targeted because of political targets that's gone on in tradition over the years. And it ends up, when you look more closely at it, this was nothing out of the normal or acceptable or ethical practice. And the Supreme Court justices, Democrat and Republican, knew all about this. No question was made.
Well, I think Justice Roberts has said, well, we do need to, let's make sure, let's get everything in order. Let's start following all the ethics guidelines that are already in place.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'd expect that. We'd also like to know who leaked the potential decision on Roe v. Wade. We'd like to know who that is.
The leaker. I think someone knows. I think we're going to be finding out pretty soon.
Well, as of yet, Roberts hasn't let that out, and so far there's no indication that they plan to. But I think I'd like to know, because whoever did it effectively changed, I believe, the outcome of elections this last year.
Really?
To have a staffer, a clerk, or maybe even another justice, and maybe that's why the concern is there, that maybe it was partisan.
You think the leak was to influence the elections?
It was to influence the election, whip up one
Get
side.
People, I'll turn
Before the
up.
decision was even made. The decision might have been left till after the election. Justice Roberts, knowing that an abortion decision was going to be one of the most heated decisions that court could possibly make. And so here we are before a key midterm election, with the U.S. Senate up for control, the U.S. House up for control, state legislators, governors, et cetera, up. Leaked this, so the court had to think, wow, it's been leaked. Can we allow this to go on under leak, or do we have to finally make our decision? And I guess we'll never know.
You think the leak forced them to act faster?
I think so.
No.
Well, when you have justices of the Supreme Court being threatened with people walking into their house
They went to their homes.
Absolutely. And that started all of that.
Yeah. Since the last time you were here, the president announced he was running for re-election, and so many have commented about the president's age. Do you think that's an issue, or should be an issue?
I don't think age should be an issue. Competence should be an issue. And if age affects your competence, yes, absolutely. I think that should be an issue relative to a member of Congress too. Not so much the age, but if it affects your competency. And I think we've seen that with Feinstein, and why
Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell. I mean, we have people that are elderly.
And some are pretty sharp.
Yeah.
You look at Chuck Grassley in Iowa. Seems to be pretty sharp, pretty active, and all the rest. But I watched the president with the president of South Korea last week. It was embarrassing to see the vitality of the South Korean president, even singing "Bye Bye American Pie" before they gave him the guitar, signed guitar, and answering questions, and our president standing there with sunglasses on and reading from notes that had the picture of the reporter that was going to ask the question, name and the question as well, and then stumbling. So is that because of his age and some of the outflowing problems that come from his age? I don't know, but it's not a good look. And so he's running again. You find the majority of Democrats don't want him to run, but he's running.
All right. Well, I know you have to get back to Washington because you've only got a couple weeks in the month of May to get all this done. It's going to be a busy month.
Well, we've been working fast and furious, and it's been great to have multiple committees going on, people coming from the district, coming to my office. The halls are filled again. We're running regular order through the House. It feels alive again. So we're excited to be home this week, and I'll be all across the district. I started out yesterday by Lake Erie. By tonight, I'll be seeing Lake Michigan.
From sea to shining sea.
Sea to shining sea, with Jackson still the center part of my district.
Well, we appreciate you taking time to be with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Our Congressman, Tim Walberg.